Welcome to the game between Ian Nepo and AR Salim. Nepo is playing with the white pieces, and it's a king's gambit on the board here. He goes for the accepted gambit. Knight jumps in. Pawn push is played by Nepo. Bishop comes in. Pawn push by black now. Nepo brings his pawn on the h file. Knight jumps in, and both the players brings out their knights. Pawn push looking to fianchet this bishop. They're taking their time, seeing how the game will unfold. Pawn push. Knight jumps in here. They need to come in here into that outpost. Nepo brings his knight, defends there, and bishop fianchet's now. Knight captures the pawn. Knight just comes in now, attacks the rook. Nepo just brings his rook up to h2. Saleh goes for castling on the king side now, which allows Nepo to go for the capture of this pawn here because this pawn here is pinned. He goes for the capture of the pawn and attack on the rook, and the rook just moves away to e8. Knight retreats back to f4, and black is slightly better after the open position. Both their kings are slightly exposed now. Black got his entire queen side to develop. Probably thinking on how the end game will play out once some of the pieces are off the board exchanged. The light square bishop of white is pretty much active, commanding a lot of space on the board here. It will be very good for black to exchange it off. He brings his knight out and Nepo pushes his pawn, completing the pawn structure on his queen side. The dark square bishop of white is already a little bit active without even moving. Actually, it's already eyeing the pawn on the h file. Bishop comes in and wins the knight against the queen. So both the bishop and the knight are on the king side of the exposed king of Nepo. He brings the king up to f2 and knight captures the pawn. King goes back to g1 now. Brings the queen up, sorry, and connects both the rooks here as well, creating a battery with the bishop at the same time. He brings his queen up away from the pin. Bishop retreats to f5. The better move was to bring the knight here, attack this nicely placed bishop. He brings his queen back. Knight retreats to f6, opening up the e file for the rooks to come in, black rooks especially. taking control of the e file. Now black bishop develops to d2 now, and knight attacks the rook, and the rook drop backs immediately. The dangerous position for a knight to be in. And with one more piece there, the knight could be really, really dangerous. So it's best to exchange it off. Retrieves the other knight. Knight jumps in and attacks the defender bishop. Bishop retrieves to h8, and he goes after the attacking knight of black. Also opening up the f file a little bit for the queen, white queen. He goes for the exchange, and Nepo captures with his rook, and pawn push attacks this nicely placed bishop here, cutting off its attack on the x-ray, this x-ray attack on the black king. You can go back, or you can just move over here. So Nepo brings his bishop here. The bishops are exchanged. Queen captures back, and queen now comes in here looking for a queen exchange. Nepo accepts the queen exchange. Knight captures back. Rook attacks the knight, and knight comes in and attacks the rook instead of the king. So if you capture the knight, the rook will come in here, and black can develop the rook on the e file, and pawn push allows the rook on the h2 to be active now. So once black double the rook, the f file, white double the rook on f file, king comes to the board, pawn is pushed here to c6, and both black and white have identical pawn structure on the queen side now. So rook comes up, rook comes in the check, rook covers the check now, rook on f1, pawn push is played here, and pawn is pushed here, but best move was to capture the pawn here. You could do that. Rook comes in here to e3 now, and pawn is pushed now by white. Rook goes back in here, knight comes in, attacks the rook, rook exchange happens, king captures back here, and rook comes in here. Rook retrieves, bishop comes in, attacks the pawn, knight jumps in, attacks the bishop, supports the bishop, rook comes in here, king comes in behind the pawn now. Nepo brings his king up the board. Bishop comes in to f6, best move was rook f6, pawn pushed by Nepo. Bishop retrieves, but best move was to push b5 there. King moves away, just buying time. Bishop places the check, and after the move here, king goes back here. King comes up the board. Pretty fast play by both the players. Probably they are short of time. Pawn push by Nepo to c4, and he goes for the capture. Nepo captures back with his pawn, and after that, this rook move is a mistake, and Nepo brings his rook to b2, and after the pawn push, Nepo brings his rook back in and brings this bishop here. So the rook drops back in here, supporting the bishop here. The knight move is inevitable now by Nepo. He will go up the exchange basically. He brings his knight, and the rook is exchanged off. The pawn is captured. After the exchange, king captures back now, and pawn push by Nepo. He didn't go for the capture, pushes the pawn. King comes up the board now. King escaped the pin. This pawn is recaptured. Bishop attacks the rook, and rook goes after the black pawn on h file, and king comes in. This pawn is captured. Rook comes to bishop comes, places the check. The rook goes after the bishop, and here Saleh resigns, and Nepo wins the match here because he's up. As you can see, he's up in the game. Quite a crazy end game. One of these pawns will queen, and that's why Saleh resigned the game, and Nepo won the match. So that's it. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with more videos.